NATO has scheduled a special meeting between Allied ambassadors and Russian officials in Brussels next week, aimed at easing tensions over the military buildup along the Ukrainian border. International efforts to diffuse heightening tensions along the eastern region have been ramped up in the past few weeks. Diplomats from the US and Russia will hold talks in Geneva next week. Meanwhile, the EU's Foreign Affairs Chief, Josep Borrell, will arrive in Ukraine this evening to show full support from Brussels for Kiev. Well, for more on this, let's head over to Brussels to speak to Maeve McMahon. Maeve, what's the purpose of Josep Borrell's visit to Ukraine? It comes just days ahead of the talks between the US and Russia in Geneva, but the EU hasn't exactly been invited. Why is that?
Well, good evening, and that is, of course, a very good question, one that's being mulled tonight here in the EU quarter of Brussels. But I guess what the Americans are thinking is they don't want to have 27 voices in that already very tense room on Sunday in Geneva. 27 voices with completely different interests and completely different stances when it comes to Russia, and voices that have lost their main spokesperson when it came to Russia and Russian affairs, and that is Angela Merkel, the former Chancellor of Germany, the only European that Vladimir Putin will actually listen to. And Josep Borrell, for his part, the Foreign Affairs Chief for the European Union, realises that they have been snubbed. The European Union has been directly left out of this talks, and he made his thoughts clear to the press ahead of that trip to Ukraine today. And he said there'd be no solution to the crisis if the Europeans were not around that table. Onlookers here have also been commenting on the fact that he's now using diplomacy to show that the EU flag is in Ukraine tonight and supporting the people. Take a listen now to Cyril Brett from the Delors Institute.
That's Borrell's trip in Kiev and in Ukraine is a way to remind Russia and to remind the US that the European Union has a word to say about that crisis and about I hope, the solution of the crisis.
And it's worth pointing out that hopes for those talks on Sunday in Geneva are quite low, and if they do fail, and they might